Israel and Palestine, locked in a seemingly eternal struggle, their shared history marred by disputes over land, identity, and faith. But this tale reaches deep into the annals of time, where the roots of this turmoil lie, dating back centuries when Israel, or rather the ancient Israelites, first set foot in their promised land. Ancient Israel. Our story takes us back to a time when the Israelites, descendants of biblical figures such as Abraham, Jacob, and King David, embarked on an epic journey. They were known as the Israelites, hailing from the tribe of Judah, worshiping the same God as the ancient matriarchs and patriarchs, a deity who promised them a land of their own. This saga, as recounted in the Bible, is filled with trials and tribulations, from escaping the clutches of Egyptian slavery to the miraculous crossing of the Red Sea and more. Their journey culminated when they arrived at the Promised Land, where they constructed a holy temple and named the land Jerusalem, led by the wise King Solomon. However, their hard-earned peace was short-lived when the Babylonians descended upon them in 586 BCE. Under the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar II of the Babylonian Empire, the Israelites were exiled, their cherished temple destroyed. But hope was rekindled in 538 BCE when the Persian Empire, under King Cyrus, conquered the Babylonians, allowing many of the Jews to return and rebuild their sacred temple.
The Second Temple era saw the re-establishment of their religious and cultural identity. They documented their sacred texts, laying the foundation for the Hebrew Bible, Tanakh, which is central to Jewish beliefs. Yet the course of history is unkind. The land experienced the rise and fall of empires, from the Hellenistic period of Alexander the Great to the Seleucid Empire. With each transition, tensions and conflicts grew. Finally, the formidable Roman Empire cast its shadow over the land. In 70 CE, Titus led the Romans in an assault on Jerusalem, culminating in the tragic destruction of the Second Temple, a moment of great sorrow for the Jewish people. This fateful event triggered a widespread Jewish diaspora, scattering them across the world. As the Roman Empire tightened its grip, the Jewish people were dispersed far and wide, leaving their ancestral homeland. As the centuries rolled on, critical events unfolded, bringing Arab populations into the land we now call Israel. Under Roman rule, the Byzantine Empire took charge, overseeing the region, including what is now known as Israel. It was in the 2nd century CE that Emperor Hadrian, under Roman influence, made a deliberate move. He renamed the province of Judea as Palestina, derived from the ancient Philistine people, erasing the Jewish and Israelite connections to the land. In the 7th century, the early Islamic forces embarked on a remarkable expansion. Under the leadership of the Rashidun Caliphs and later the Umayyad Caliphate, they conquered vast territories, including the land that encompasses modern-day Israel. In 637 CE, they seized the holy city of Jerusalem, a moment of profound significance in Islamic history. Arab Muslim communities settled in the region, living alongside existing Christian and Jewish communities. Over time, this land evolved into the home of Arab populations, becoming an integral part of their history. After centuries of wandering, the late 19th and early 20th centuries bore witness to a remarkable movement among Jewish communities in Europe. They yearned to return to their ancestral homeland in Palestine, a movement known as Zionism. It was a response to growing anti-Semitism in Europe, a longing to establish a homeland. The pioneering Theodor Herzl played a pivotal role in advocating for a Jewish state. During World War I in 1917, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration, publicly expressing support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The League of Nations then entrusted Britain with the mandate to govern Palestine in 1920, with the goal of preparing it for self-governance. However, this mandate ignited growing tensions between the Jewish and Arab communities. The Jewish population swelled under the British mandate, with immigrants establishing agricultural communities and urban centers, leading to demographic shifts. Yet the Arab population grew increasingly apprehensive, fearing the displacement of Palestinian Arabs from their lands. As tensions escalated between these two communities, the United Nations proposed a partition plan in 1947. The plan suggested dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with international administration over Jerusalem. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan, but the Arab states and Palestinian leadership rejected it, triggering the 1947 to 1949 Arab-Israeli War. The war led to a historic moment, the establishment of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948. The Jewish people celebrated their independence, but this jubilation was accompanied by the painful displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs, sparking a significant refugee crisis. The Declaration of Israel's independence in 1948 marked the onset of a new chapter in the complex saga of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Neighboring Arab states and Palestinian groups launched several wars against Israel, further altering borders and deepening the animosity between these two sides. One of the most pivotal moments occurred in 1967, a mere 6 days that altered the course of history. Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem during the Six-Day War. These territories have since remained a major source of dispute, with Palestinians yearning to establish an independent state in the West Bank and Gaza. In the early 1990s, the Oslo Accords emerged as a glimmer of hope, offering a framework for peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. These accords tackled issues such as borders, security, and the status of Jerusalem. Yet, a final agreement remained elusive. The early years of the 21st century bore witness to the Second Intifada, a Palestinian uprising that erupted in 2000. It plunged the region into violence, inflicting casualties on both sides. Although the conflict eventually waned, its scars remained and many issues remained unresolved. In 2005, Israel took a significant step, unilaterally disengaging from the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military and settlers were withdrawn, but the situation in Gaza remained volatile. Soon it fell under the control of Hamas, a Palestinian group designated as a terrorist organization by Israel and several Western nations. The year 2007 witnessed a seismic shift when Hamas carried out a violent coup, taking control of Gaza. This momentous event deepened the division between Gaza and the West Bank, both politically and territorially. As the pages of history turned, the conflict persisted, marked by periodic escalations of violence. The most recent chapter unfolded in May 2021, triggered by tensions in East Jerusalem. The potential eviction of Palestinian families from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood led to clashes and protests. These events sparked an 11-day conflict, during which Israel launched airstrikes in Gaza, and Hamas fired rockets into Israeli cities. This recent escalation in May 2021, although brief, resulted in significant loss of life and widespread destruction. International efforts, including ceasefire agreements brokered by Egypt and the United Nations, attempted to quell the violence and prevent further devastation. Yet beneath the surface, the unresolved core issues lingered, like a simmering fire waiting to erupt again. As we turn the page to the most recent chapter in this ongoing saga, we find ourselves in the year 2023, a time marked by hope but also by new challenges. The events leading up to the 2023 conflict were influenced by a series of complex factors, reminding us that the conflict between Israel and Palestine remains a highly volatile and sensitive issue. It began with a culmination of tensions that had been building for some time. One of the primary catalysts was the continued dispute over the status of Jerusalem, a city that holds immense religious and cultural significance for both Israelis and Palestinians. Jerusalem had been a long-standing flashpoint in the conflict, with competing claims over its sovereignty, and the situation had become increasingly fraught. A significant source of tension was the possible eviction of Palestinian families from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in East Jerusalem. This eviction dispute, which had been ongoing for years, led to protests and clashes in the city. It ignited anger among Palestinians, who saw it as part of a broader pattern of displacement and encroachment on their land. The situation worsened when Israeli police entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, one of the most sacred sites in Islam, during the holy month of Ramadan. The incursion led to violent confrontations and further inflamed tensions in the city. The images of clashes at Al-Aqsa spread quickly across the region and triggered widespread outrage. The conflict escalated rapidly from there. Hamas, the Palestinian militant group in control of the Gaza Strip, seized the opportunity to launch rocket attacks into Israeli territory. Israel responded with airstrikes, and the situation rapidly deteriorated into an intense and deadly conflict. This 2023 war resulted in significant loss of life and extensive damage to infrastructure in both Gaza and Israel, as well as casualties on both sides. International efforts to mediate and achieve a ceasefire were once again initiated, involving various actors including Egypt and the United Nations. After days of intense fighting, a ceasefire was finally reached, bringing a temporary halt to the violence. But as history has shown, ceasefires are often fragile, and the roots of the conflict remain unresolved. As the world witnessed the events of 2023, the tragic cycle of violence and destruction served as a stark reminder of the deep-seated issues that continue to plague the region. The status of Jerusalem, the Palestinian right of return, the question of borders, and the broader aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians remain at the heart of the conflict. In the chapters of the Israel-Palestine story, the year 2023 is a testament to the ongoing struggle for peace and the challenges of reconciling historical narratives and competing claims. It serves as a stark reminder that the quest for a lasting resolution remains an arduous and elusive journey. The pain and suffering on both sides stand as a stark testament to the urgent need for dialogue, diplomacy, and a peaceful path forward.